Hi, hello, kumusta mabuhay? My name is JJ, Jasper Jed, and welcome to my channel. For our first video, I'm going to be teaching you on how you can own the screen on your online presentations and online meetings. So sit tight, fasten your seatbelt as I lift you off to this amazing learning journey in about 3, 2, 1, lift off! Hey friends, before we begin our actual discussion, let me drop in a little disclaimer here. So in the intro of this video, I mentioned that this would be the first video in my YouTube channel, where in fact it is not. What I meant there is that this would be the first video after rebranding my channel from Jed Guacob to Jasper Jed, because Jasper Jed is my actual name. Alongside with that is also the formalization of my YouTube channel as requested by my friends. But please, I will be honest with you, I'm not the most creative person in terms of visual arts, visual effects, and anything. Do not expect a very extravagant video editing because I'll be learning that in the coming days. But please, still watch my video, and I hope you'll learn a lot from me. And again, welcome to my YouTube channel. Alright, our topic for this video is owning the screen, the art of delivery of effective presentation online. This will help basically anyone who's into online presentations and online meeting delivery. This would be ideal for teachers and employees. Specifically, we are in the middle of pandemics and most of our tasks are being already brought into online. This specific content is an original content of mine. Because I realized that as a presenter, I've already mastered the skill in owning the stage in an actual on-site presentation. But like everyone else who are already adapting, we still got a lot of things to learn on how we can own the screen and on how we can effectively present our presentations, or even deliver or organize meetings amidst the pandemic, amidst working from home or working from anywhere scenarios. Of course, in order for you to own the screen, you'll have to prepare first. As the old saying goes, if you fail to prepare, then prepare to fail. So that will be the start of our discussion. Preparing yourself actually means building confidence. But why do we need to build confidence? Well, the more confidence we give, the more impact that we will have. And impact has different output. Like for example, an impact can be the actual knowledge that you are imparting with your audience, or an impact would be that the thing that you teach them can be useful not only to their work but to life in general. So, in order for us to build our confidence and in order for us to give greater impact, we always have to look at what is my why. Why am I here? Why am I a teacher? Why am I an employee? Why am I presenting this presentation? What's my goal? And I tell you, my dear friends, only you can answer what's your why, and we have different whys in different reasons. Like for example, if I'm a salesperson, probably my why is to sell, or probably my why is to help our customer to improve their businesses. If I am a teacher, my why would be probably about on how I can teach lessons to my student. So the first thing in order for you to improve your confidence is of course to know why you're all doing this. And for me, I'm doing this because I simply love presenting what I know and sharing what I know to you and to my students. Next, in order for us to build confidence, we'll need to learn how to communicate effectively. Now, this is a vast learning field, right? We will not delve much on this one, but of course we all know that when we know what to say and when we know how to say it properly, then we will have the ability to have more confidence, more clarity, and then again, more impact to our attendees or to our listeners. Next, in order for you to build confidence, you should know your audience, know your event, or know your meeting. I know this can be simple, but of course, whenever you create or whenever you prepare to a certain event or presentation or even a meeting, you'll be able to learn more of what are the things that you should talk about, what are the things that you shouldn't be talking about, and what impact should you be delivering. You should also be capable of learning about the types of learner, because if you're gonna be if you will be knowledgeable about the different types of learner, you'll be able to present your presentation that is adaptable to different types of learner. Next, you should also be able to know what is the goal of the event that you are delivering or the meeting that you are delivering, because all of these items might be important to you, so that you will always be relevant to what you're saying to the event and so on. So whenever inside the Microsoft, whenever someone is inviting me, or even outside Microsoft, when someone is inviting me to an event, I always see to it that I'll be sending this list so that I would have a greater or an early rather an early information of what my audience and what are the things that I should be or probably should not be talking about. Simple information, of course, such as event date, so that you wouldn't be late. Event venue. Well, I know, of course, that would be irrelevant for this specific discussion. But again, if it's a physical event, you'll have to know the venue. Time slot, of course, so that you will be prepared with your presentation, and you would know how long or how short your presentation is. Next would be event title, so that you can align your presentation to the event. You should also know the primary organizer. You could be talking about something that might not be relevant to them, or worse is you might not be, or worse is you might be able to be sharing something that might be about their competitors or some sort. You should also know more about the event goal. Is the goal is for marketing purposes, in selling purposes? If it's a meeting, what's the goal of the meeting? What are the accomplishments that we need to do? What are the open items? Again, look at the goals, either on event or on a meeting. Second is target audience. Of course, both rather, meetings and events, you should be prepared to who you are talking with, so that you would make sense. Of course, you wouldn't be talking about a lot of technical stuff to people who are non-technical. The next one would be industry focus. This is part of knowing your audience, and of course, again, you should be able to learn or to know what are the focus topics for discussion, what are the possible areas for discussions, and so on. I mentioned earlier that a presenter or a meeting organizer or a meeting lead should always know about the types of learner or types of attendees, so that they'll be able to adapt their presentation with. Now, in terms of different types of learners, I have three types on this presentation. We have your visual learners or visual attendees, we have your auditory attendees, and also your kinesthetics. The first type of learners or attendees are your visual learners. So these are the people who more often think in pictures. They label things visually since they process in the visual mode. So sila yung mga tao that you can capture the attention with pictures, flowcharts, arrows, and anything that is visual. And you can get their attention by saying, look at this. Can you picture this? Is this clear? Okay, so those are the things that would get their attention. Also, there are cues that visual learners are having challenges with your presentation. Like for example, they will tell you, "I cannot imagine this." This is not clear to me. I cannot picture this. Can you draw it to me? So those are the cues that your visual learners are probably having challenges with your presentation. So you'll have to adapt with those cues. Now, for us to appreciate a visual person more, I'm gonna give you some examples. So yung mga visual learners, kapag ka dinala mo sila sa kasal, ang una nila mapapansin dyan yung motif, yung design, the fabric that they've used for the tables and chairs, and anything that would be visually appealing for them. Kapag dinala mo naman sila sa sinehan, the first thing that they look at, of course, would be the cinematics, the visual effects, and the face of the actors or the actresses playing roles in the movie. Now, if you're going to be bringing visual learners to a mall, if they're going to be doing shopping, of course, the first thing that they'll be using is their visual cues. So, ang una nilang gagawin is, of course, to look at the items and to check how pleasing it is, how to check on how unique it is. Basta, lagi nilang pinapagana are their eyes or their visual processes. So again, in terms of presentation, always adapt your presentation with your visual learner by adding charts, pictures, and visual cues. The next one are your auditory learners or your auditory attendees, and I'm one of them. People who most often think in sound, they label things auditorily since they process in auditory mode. So these are the people that you would want to capture attention with the phrases such as please hear me out or listen to me. I'm gonna explain this to you. So yun yung mga gagamitin mo to get their attention. Some cues that they are having challenges with your presentations are phrases such as this doesn't sound good. This doesn't sound good. Can you please explain this to me? Can you please repeat? So they will always use words that has something to do with sounds. Now, to further appreciate our auditory learners, I'm gonna give examples as well, katulad ng ginawa ko sa mga visual learner. So, ang auditory learner naman, pag dinala mo sila sa wedding, the first thing that they'll notice, of course, will be the sound of the reception, how good the singer is, and how good the speakers are inside the reception area. If you're gonna be bringing them to a cinema, they would notice first your sound effects, yung mga kalansing, yung mga bass ng movie, and so on. And they would always appreciate OST if it's really good, because again, they are using their auditory, they are processing using their auditories. When you bring them to a mall for shopping, sometimes auditory person already knows what they want, but sometimes they need to have affirmation. Like for example, they want a certain item, like for example the t-shirt, they will still gonna be asking you, bagay ba? Or is this okay on my fit? Because they always get affirmation. They want to hear affirmation of a certain something. They also are the people that you would want to explain things further. So for example, if you're going to be selling them a certain item, like for example a laptop, they will be the one who will be listening to you on your every explanation. So in terms of presentation, capture your auditory learners with sound cues, sound effects, and even with the modulation of your voice. So sometimes auditory learner would not listen to you if they don't like your pitch, they don't want your intonation or the way you speak. So those are your auditory learners, and be sure to adapt with their needs. The last one are your kinesthetic learners. So these are people who actually move, who actually think by feelings. So of course, since we are on a remote type of a scenario, remote presentation, it would be hard for us. I'll be honest with you, medyo mahirapan tayo to touch in with the kinesthetics because again, they involve with feelings and mostly movement. So You will, if you want to get their attention, you can use phrases such as, how do you feel about this? Let's walk through this. I need, let's walk through this. Let me explain it to you further, and so on. Um, you know that kinesthetic learners are having problem if they're gonna be saying like phrases such as, I need to have a better grasp on this. I want to experience this more than listening, and so on. So if you're gonna be if I'm gonna be giving example for further appreciation of our kinesthetic learners, kapag ka sa kasal, the first thing that they probably notice are the people, and on how people are moving. They are easily touched by the event. In terms of other items, since they are using their feelings, sometimes they would feel physically, like for example, if a visual learner would appreciate the designs, the motif sila, yung mga kinesthetics, they will go to the extent of feeling the fabric, tablecloths and so on. If you're gonna be bringing kinesthetic learners to a cinema, they will be easily be moved. They are the ones who are easily, like for example, they will easily startle if there are movements. And the classic example of your kinesthetic person is yung, another example is yung kapag kalaro mo sila with a video game, a racing game, sila yung mga gumaganyan because they are kinesthetic learners and kinesthetic people. If you're gonna be bringing them into a more kinesthetic person, will then again do the actual thing. So for example, if the visual learner will rely on the visual, kung gaano kaganda yung produkto, and if the auditory will rely on your explanation, on your affirmation, kinesthetics will go beyond that. They would want you to demo it. They would want to experience a certain product. So for example, if they're gonna be buying a dress, they would really need to fit it. If they're gonna be buying a phone, they would literally open it and play with it. That's why yung mga demo devices would really cater to kinesthetic learners. So again, kinesthetic learners are really hard, to be honest with you, are really hard to adapt with during remote session. But of course, you can still use terms such as, how do you feel about this? Are you okay right now? How are you doing so far? So that you can talk with your kinesthetic learners. Or if you really want to get their attention, you can probably show your face on the camera and see some movements. That's something that your kinesthetic learners would appreciate. Or create creative presentations that would involve activities where they will be moving, and I think that would still be possible on a remote kind of a presentation. So those are your kinesthetic learners, and those are your three types of learners or attendees. Again, you have your visual, auditory, and kinesthetic learners. Next, in preparing how to own the screen is creating your PowerPoint presentation. Now, people think that creating PowerPoint presentation is hard. But to be honest with you, as long as you know the content, creating PowerPoint presentation is really easy. Specifically, if your content is arranged into a coherent manner, like what you are seeing right now, your presentation should always start with agenda. Actually, before the agenda, you can also add in different types of introduction to set up rapport to your audience. You can probably start with a greeting, and or asking how your attendees are, specifically that we are dealing with the pandemic. So again, start with those type of things. Next will be discuss only key points. Many people are creating PowerPoint presentation where everything is there. Something that people tend to realize is that PowerPoint presentation should just be guide for your for your presentation in general. It shouldn't be the whole presentation, but rather it only will complement your presentation. Now, you would notice that I'm still using PowerPoint presentation because again, this is what I want to present as content, and again, I have the lack of ability to create a creative video, so I would rely on PowerPoint presentation. But again, I'll just be using key points so that you will not be bombarded with everything or every ounce of information that you don't necessarily need to see. Next, after of course the main parts of your PowerPoint presentation, you'll always have to create a recap so that you'll have a review of what you've talked so far and so on. And then lastly, even though we are in a remote session, it is always ideal that you would provide Q&A, so that you'll be able to gather questions and inputs or insights from your attendees. Next is that your PowerPoint presentation should be able to captivate your audiences by thinking about the type of learners that we just discussed. So again, think of them. When you create a PowerPoint presentation, think of, will this be relevant to my visual learner? Will this be relevant to my auditory learner? And so on. So that's one general tips for me for creating PowerPoint presentation. And if you want to, I also have a lot of PowerPoint presentation tips and tricks on this channel. Now that I've shared with you on how you should prepare on owning the screen for your online presentations and meetings, let us now go on to the tips and tricks on how you should own the screen during these events. The first one is building rapport. Building rapport is presenting yourself first with your attendees and setting up their expectation and setting up their trust. You can build rapport by a simple way of greeting, knowing who you are, asking how good they are, asking their status, and so on. There are a lot of things that you can build rapport with a lot of people, and this is something that you can do with practice. Sometimes people would build rapport by cracking up jokes and so on. But the best way to do it on an online meeting or an online presentation is to leverage your voice, modulate your voice, command the screen, and of course increase your visibility. That is why I would recommend that in every online presentation, online meeting that you have, see to it that as much as possible you'll be visible. You have visibility, your cameras are on, so that your audience will see you and will appreciate you. And then again, once you build the rapport, you will have the trust of your attendees, and they might be willing to listen to you. Next, leading the discussion. So this is something that you need to do, because if you will not be leading the discussion, you will go into a lot of ways that would lead your audience into boredom. Now, for you to be able to successfully lead the discussion, you always have to know what's your content. You always have to know what to say. And then you can also utilize tools. For example, if you are using Microsoft Teams, you'll have a lot of tools at your disposal that you can use to lead the discussion. Like, for example, sharing the screen, sharing the presentation. So if you're going to be sharing a presentation using PowerPoint, you can use the virtual laser pointer and so on. Utilize those tools. You can also lead the discussion by using tools. Not just you, but also your attendees. You can allow your attendees to unmute themselves, to chat their sentiments through text box and so on. Next is be conscious of your phrasing. Now, in an actual presentation, physical presentation, phrasing is wherein we set up a certain space in the stage so that we would provide a certain emphasis on a certain topic. Like, for example, if we're going to be discussing Windows 8 to Windows 10, I would take this part of the stage as Windows 8, and then I would take this part as Windows 10. So after explaining Windows 7, I'm going to be moving to Windows 10 so that be providing more emphasis so people would see the difference. Now, while facing in digital presentation or online presentation on online meeting, facing can only be done by successfully putting your presentation in a coherent manner, because again, facing is something that you cannot do physically since you are online, but you can still use facing by putting your discussion in a very coherent manner. Next, here are the tips that you can use to give greater impact to your presentation. One is extend to your audience. So, since your audience are online, and I'll tell you, my dear friends, screen fatigue is real. So, you wouldn't know if your attendees are already doing something else. And to tell you honestly, if tell you honestly, some of the attendees, we have a meeting here. Some would probably answer emails. Some would probably browse on Facebook. So always extend to your audience as much as possible. Provide a collaborative and an immersive experience through online meetings and presentation. I know it would be harder because it's on a virtual level, but again, you can utilize tool to do give and take. Again, utilize your tool. Tell them that they are on the same space, that they can share anything. They can ask questions. Um, they can utilize whatever tools that they want. If they want to unmute and talk, then they can do that. If they want to express through chat, they can do that. If they want to express with GIF, memes, and so on, then might as well use that so that you can extend to your audience. Next, add a little humor. Now, you don't need to be a comedian to be a great presenter. All you have to do is always be relatable to your attendees. Sometimes normal things are funny because it's relatable. So always inject in a little humor whenever you are presenting so that you would still get their attention. Next, share the energy. I know energy is something that you can only feel physically, but you can still share the energy on the online presentation if you're going to be using your voice, your appearance, and so on. So, modulate your voice, be clear, be concise, show your energy, show your enthusiasm to your attendees, and in that way, you'll be able to extend to your audience. So here are additional tips on online presentation. Before the start of the presentation, always wear appropriate clothes. Even in meetings, because you wouldn't know, sometimes people would ask you to turn on the camera, and lo and behold, you're not prepared. So even though, again, it's a regular meeting, we are already comfortable with our home, with our home clothes, always still wear appropriate clothes so that whenever there are necessary instances that you would need to present yourself in the video, you have appropriate clothes. But then again, my tip is always turn your camera, because that will improve your visibility and that would improve your extension to your audience, because they are basically seeing you and not just listening to you like you are on the telephone. Second, be early and do technical checks. This is very basic. So in a physical presentation, we always use to do this because there might be technical problems that you might encounter during the presentation, and of course that will also happen in an online presentation because you are utilizing technologies, and I am working on a technology company, but of course not technology isn't perfect, so there are times that it would fail us. So be early and do technical check. Be on mute upon entering online meeting room, because you might not know, you might probably have bad background noise and so on. Always enter a meeting room on mute, and there are also times that probably the meeting has started. So in order for you not to disrupt people, always put yourself on mute. Next, if you're going to be presenting, turn off your notification and other distractions, so that next time if there are going to be some activities wherein you're going to be sharing your screen, you wouldn't really want to see notifications, especially embarrassing notification that would pop out on your screen out of nowhere, and everyone will be seeing that. So might as well turn off the notification and other distractions on your devices. During the presentation, enjoy the beauty of pausing and check on your audience. In this specific video, of course, I'm not much of a, I don't do much pausing because I don't have an audience. But embrace pausing. Pausing works in two ways. One, if you want to have emphasis. And second, you can use pausing to check with your audience. So embrace the beauty of pausing. If possible, again, be interactive so that you'll be able to extend with your audience and your attendees. If you'll be sharing your desktop, close unnecessary windows or application. So this is similar to what I've shared in the previous slide. You don't want to see them seeing your Facebook with your personal messages, your Facebook window, your Twitter window, and so on. Next is take note of questions that you cannot answer. Be honest. You're a person. You're a human. So if you don't know something, then be honest and ensure your audience that you'll have to take down their question, and then you'll get back to them, because again, you don't know everything, so you'll have to clarify it first. So take note of every questions that you can be answered. Be conscious of the time. Again, screen fatigue is real, so be conscious of the time. Don't waste each other's attendees' time or your co-presenters' time. Always be conscious of the time. Utilize the tool that you have on PowerPoint. There's a timer there, there's a time counter there, there's current clock there. Always be conscious of the time. After the presentation, if you promise to send your presentation to your attendees, send it afterwards alongside with your answer to the question that you couldn't answer during the presentation. If it's a meeting, give updates or send out open items. So or send the minutes of the meeting to everyone who have attended the meeting. If you have a recording or if you have time, review it, because whenever you view your recording, you'll see what are the things that you missed, what are the things that you probably wasn't able to say but you blurted it out. Then probably you can correct that on the next presentation. And the next one is very personal to me. I am someone who values feedback, because I am someone who always listen to feedback. I always ask people, how was my presentation? Did you learn some things, and so on. So if they have feedback form, might as well as the organizer or you yourself provide feedback forms, so the next time your presentation will be done. And to recap on how you could own the screen on your online presentation and online meeting, here are the things that we've discussed. Number one is to prepare to own the screen. Prepare yourself by knowing your why. Prepare yourself by looking at the impact that you would want to improve or you want to give to your audience. And practice effective communication. Second is by knowing your audience and knowing their types, so that you'll be able to adapt the presentations to them. And of course, also knowing the goals of the meeting or the presentation. Third, create PowerPoint presentations that are cohesive. Use your PowerPoint presentation as a supplementary to your discussion, not as a by the book guide. As a speaker, you should be able to lead the discussion, not your PowerPoint presentation. In the actual owning of screen, you can start with building rapport so that you can build trust to your audience, lead the discussion, and know what to say and know what to share to them. Lastly, if you want to give greater impact, you always have to extend with your audience, specifically that they are online and not physically with you. And then look at the online meeting and the session tips that I shared with you in the previous slides. And those are the tips and tricks that I want to share with you on how you can successfully own the screen on your online presentations and meetings. See you on the next video. Bye bye.